What's up, everybody? Welcome into NBA DFS Live for, what is it, Wednesday? Wednesday, February 17th. I don't know what day it is due to the snow. Just been sitting inside. Um, bunch of games tonight. I think it's been a good week for us, obviously. 4-game win streak with the optimal core plays on DraftKings. I know you had a good night last night. We both played Taylor Horton Tucker and got 0, but still managed to cash. So that's a good night. But there's a lot of injuries. Like, I'm not even gonna go over the injuries today because there's just so many. But there's no like huge ones, right? It's mainly like Kemba and Tice are out. D'Angelo Russell's out. It's just guys like that, and a bunch of guys like the Nuggets guys. Like, those guys have been out for a couple of days. Like Barton and Millsap are out again. Gary Harris and Monty Morris are questionable, so we'll have to wait and see on those guys. But there's a lot going on today. So what is your thoughts on just the slate as a whole?
Yeah, I really like the slate. I literally right before we got on here just got finished making a lineup that I absolutely love, which I would be 100% fine playing, except for we know for sure that the slate is going to change 100 times before a lock. So I rarely make lineups before like legitimately 6:30 p.m. But I don't know. There's a lot to really like about this slate. We got a quick comment here from Rube. He said toe update from you, Ben, please.
Update on what? Oh, toe.
Your
Dude,
toe.
it's just purple, man. Like, it freaking hurts, dude. Yeah. So if you guys aren't in our Discord, basically, um, Monday my car got stuck in the snow. Then I basically like broke my toe in the process of getting my car unstuck. But it resulted in me sitting around waiting to get my car unstuck, and I built like the greatest lineup of all time. So it was a good thing, and I haven't lost since I hurt my toe. So we'll see if that continues tonight. I know last night Frosty
Like
told
keep
me to,
going.
yeah, Frosty told me in Discord last night to go break another toe. So we'll see on that. But all right, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. Bales will read them. We can discuss them. But we'll jump right in here with point guard. No Luca on the slate, so there's no clear must at point guard. So where are you going at the top? There is some good plays though, obviously. Probably Dame sticks out as number one, but yeah, it is a back to back. So
Yeah, I think Lillard's the top option. Seems pretty clear cut to me. I just like the matchup more than some of the other ones. I do think that Trae Young at 9,600 is fine, and Russell Westbrook, if you're playing Denver guys, which most likely you will be, is a solid bring back option, but not really my favorite. I would just rather get up the 300 to get to Damian Lillard. Um, I do think Trae Young is interesting with Kemba out, though. I don't really think that Peyton Pritchard is going to be able to stick with him. But at the same time, for point guard, I feel like I'm probably going to sit more in like the mid price range versus the top, because I think there's guys like Malcolm Brogdon really sticks out. John Morant, even John Wall, I think is reasonable at 7,800. And then probably my favorite play on the entire slate is DeLone Wright at 6K. It's just the perfect matchup with Chicago. He's going to be running more of the offense. His minutes are locked in, and he's really just too cheap for what he's been doing.
yeah, there's two really good mid tier plays today, I feel. So I'm with you on that. I do think Curry. We'll talk about him a little bit. He's 10-5, most expensive point guard on DraftKings. I do think he's interesting in tournaments. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but the matchup on paper is tough against Miami. But ever since they've been able to move Dre up and play him at center a lot, which is kind of what they used to do back in the day, right, when they were just ripping off the
Mhm.
titles, um, he's been really good ever since Draymond started playing center. I think it opens things up for him a little bit more, and he's been shooting really well. So I do think he's in play at 10-5, but probably not a cash game play for me. Today, I think Wall is going to be. I mean, he's projecting really well. I think he's probably going to be decently owned. I guess we'll see by the time we get to lock in terms of like other random injuries opening up value. But I'm going to pass on him today. Just I don't love the matchup against Philly. I'm assuming Ben Simmons will probably be guarding him. So I think Brogdon for 100 cheaper. We played Brogdon that last slate against Chicago. This is a really good matchup against Minnesota. So I like Brogdon, and then I completely agree with you on Delon Wright. I think he's a really good play today. Like you and I both, James as well. Like we've been just targeting these guards that have the ball in their hands a lot against the Bulls for the last couple weeks, and
Mhm.
that's basically what Wright is doing. He runs pick and roll a lot, and I think like 6K like seems like too much, but it really isn't when you look at what he's been doing.
Yeah, I agree. It's you know, um, you don't really think of DeLon Wright as like an elite fantasy player, but he's actually been really good. One this season, but throughout his career, he's actually been pretty solid. And now he's getting the full minutes and a bigger offensive role for Detroit. So, 6K isn't really bad. At the same price tag, I also think that Tyler Hero is fine. I prefer Wright. I don't think that it's a bad idea to play both of them together. Both come with plenty of upside. Just choosing one of Hero or Wright. I'm going to use Wright, though.
Yeah, and then also for tournaments, we should probably mention SGA. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's back tonight. I don't think he'll be owned at 85 on DraftKings, but I mean the Grizzlies give up a lot of drives to guards, and that's kind of what he's been doing this year. So I do think it's an interesting leverage spot in tournaments, especially because he's been out for a little bit. So just people won't be thinking about playing him. So I think that's a good spot to go for like a pivot. So do you like anyone below Wright? I guess is where we'd be going next.
Yeah, I think at 49, Michael Carter Williams is an interesting option. Not really a top play against the Knicks, who have a very solid defense and play fairly slow. I think I would rather at 4,200 with Kemba Walker out. We have Peyton Pritchard. He really screwed a lot of people the last time he got big minutes, and I'm sure some people are going to have him on their do not play list, but I think Pritchard's actually a pretty good player, and the matchup is really solid against Atlanta. And then I think the last one that we probably need to mention, specifically if Morris is out, is Campazzo at 3,500. I think even if Morris plays, like Campazzo's not really a bad option. He's been playing well enough that I would assume that he's going to get 20 plus minutes anyway, and he's only 3,500, I believe. So even if he only gets 20 minutes, it's realistic that he beats his price tag, especially in a fast-paced matchup against Washington. But if Morris is out, I would assume that Campazzo is just like the highest owned player on the entire slate, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, Malone, I think, mentioned he's been dealing with like some knee soreness, but still playing. But I mean, yeah, he played 40 minutes last night, balled out against the Lakers. That was absolutely epic, to be honest. Like that's just like an epic like DFS fan favorite. He just comes out, starts, and just balls out in his first start. Like it's great. But yeah, I think if Morris is in and Gary Harris is out, you could probably still play him because he's so cheap. Obviously, if Morris is out and Gary Harris are both out, you'll be locking him in. But we'll just have to wait and see. If Morris is in, I think he's an interesting play as well. Would you be in on him if he's in?
Well, Morris?
Yeah.
Um, I think he's reasonable. I just don't really love paying 4,600 for him. I just like Campazzo is only 3,500. It's just super cheap. Whereas I feel like I would just play Peyton Pritchard for a few hundred cheaper.
Yeah.
Versus Morris, obviously.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Pritchard's fine too, honestly. In tournaments, I don't have any issues with that. We'll move on to shooting guard. I know you were debating putting Bradley Beal into your lineup right before we got on the stream, so I'll let you talk about him here to start.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying up, it feels like Bradley Beal is more or less the guy. I think you can take a shot on like Donovan Mitchell or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but specifically, I'm going to have some Denver guys in my lineup, I would assume. So bringing it back with Beal makes a whole lot of sense. Outside of that, I feel like, Brogdon, we already talked about. Jaylen Brown gets a good matchup against Atlanta. 7,900 is probably a little bit too cheap for him. I do like him if you're spending up, but that's more or less where I'm looking to spend up. I just feel like this is probably a position where you're either going to play Beal, Brown, or drop down a little bit.
Yeah, so I sorted the projections by value score. Jokic obviously is number one just because he's been playing so well. And then two of the next three are Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So I think with Kemba out, we're going to see a lot of ownership head to Jaylen, specifically at their price. Obviously, it's a pretty good matchup against the Hawks. And the offense is just going to run like really through him and Tatum, and they're not overly expensive. So those really good cash game play. I feel Brown is, and you have Brogdon right below him, who we talked about at point guard. But I mean that could be an interesting pivot in tournaments just because he's like just 100 cheaper or 200.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Brown is going to get basically all the ownership around there. So Brogdon, especially against Minnesota, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So early ownership projections, we have Jokic up there over 20%. I'm assuming he's gonna he was. I didn't really think he was gonna be that high owned last night. I thought most people were gonna play Robert Williams and DeAndre Jordan. That didn't end up being the case. So a lot of people played Jokic and one of those other two. So that surprised me. So just the fact that he was almost 40% owned last night, he's going to be owned again tonight. So if that's the case, like I don't think a lot of people will get a run back. So to your point on using Beal, I do think that's a smart move in tournaments. Below Brown, like mid tier, do you want to chase Jordan Clarkson scoring? I think it was what was it the first time since '91 or something? Someone scored 40 points off the bench in however many minutes or whatever. That dude went crazy last game.
Yeah, I don't want to chase it because it was the whole Kardashian thing, wasn't him and Ben Simmons? They both have career games.
Yeah, that's insane, dude.
Yeah, they were just playing for the heart of a Kardashian, and he's got none of that tonight.
Oh man, what a legend. Then we have Anthony Edwards at 6K. We got to talk about him. Anthony Edwards has been a hot topic on this stream this year. It feels like we played him that one night. He did nothing, and I swear it's been every night since then. He's just been hyper aggressive, attacking the rim. Went for over 50 DraftKings points in his last game. Obviously, Russell is out in this one, so don't love the price at 6K, but we can't ignore what he's been doing, and he is an option in tournaments. I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I would rather just play Hero at 6K. Because I would assume, I guess neither one honestly is going to get much ownership. But I slightly prefer Hero, but I have no problems with Anthony Edwards. Right above him too, Andrew Wiggins is only 6,300. Miami's defense isn't like it's been, so I do like him. And then someone said Eric Bledsoe and Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is 5,600. Not truthfully. Eric Bledsoe is 5,300. Yeah, I'm fine with both of them. I prefer Dylan Brooks to Eric Bledsoe tonight.
Yeah, I like Brooks more too.
I think both are relatively fine options. Neither one is going to be a priority for me, but they do come with plenty of upside.
Yeah, I think Wiggins is in play, but I've seen the most absurd thing going around on Twitter, man. Look, I'm not a hater. I'm the biggest anti-hater. Like I hate people that spend their entire energy just hating on people. Well, I hate that. But wait, what'd you say?
I said, but is that where this is going?
Yeah, but okay. This is the most insane thing I've seen. People are making this case for Andrew Wiggins on Twitter. They're like, dude, he's one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league now. Look at this. He's shooting career high from 3. He's top 5 in on-ball defense or something. I'm like, dude, that's well and good. I'm not celebrating that it took Andrew Wiggins 7 years to become a good 3-and-D player. This guy went number 1 overall in the draft. He was supposed to be one of the best players in the NBA, and you're celebrating that half a decade later he can be a good 3-and-D option. I don't understand this.
I don't think Andrew Wiggins is bad.
No, but it's you don't go number 1 overall to be a solid 3-and-D player on an average Western Conference team.
Someone said top GPP plays. We're just going over them as we go through the pod. That's kind of what we do on top of cash, obviously. If you've missed anything so far, you can go back after we finish and rewatch the beginning of the podcast as well. So,
if you had to pick one, Bales, you would pick Delon Wright, correct?
One GPP play on the day?
Yeah, just your favorite.
Yeah, Delon Wright is by far my favorite at the moment.
Yeah, I think Wright is up there for me. Wright and Brogdon, honestly, probably is my favorite too.
Yeah, I really like Brogdon too.
I guess this Sabonis and Brogdon stack is in play again, but they priced Sabonis accordingly. Finally, he's 9,700. You remember, like, for like 2 weeks straight? I don't understand this. For 2 weeks straight, he was like 8,500, and now he plays like
Yeah,
Minnesota, where I want to use him, and he's 97. I don't understand. But all right,
you got to
small.
pay to play.
Yeah, I guess so. Small forward, Ben Simmons, monster game, dude. I had him in. We had a really good night on Monday, so it didn't matter. But I was looking at late swap stuff. Obviously, we swapped a bunch on Monday because there's a bunch of post lock injuries. But I had him in a swap, but I ended up not going with it. Didn't matter a ton, but dude, he looked really good. I think the matchup against Houston is sneaky good for him, so I think he's fine in tournaments, but definitely not someone I'm going on my main team. I think Tatum on DraftKings is going to be really high owned. You can see our projected ownership right here. We have him at 32, which is one of the highest players on the slate already today. I don't think he'll be any secret today. I think he's going to be really high owned.
Yeah, there's three guys here that really stick out to me. It's Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, and Jaylen Brown. All three are going to garner some ownership. All three are just elite plays tonight. If you can get up to any of those three, absolutely feel free. If I had to put them in order, I think Tatum would be first, then Brown, then Jimmy Butler. But any of the three I think are really good.
Yeah, Butler, another guy, he's kind of just been like alphaing the Heat, like just taking over and doing whatever he wants. I think he's a good play. I felt super bad because Anthony played some NBA Monday, and he texted me before the late games, and he was like, "I have enough to get the Simmons. Should I go with Simmons or should I keep Butler?" And I was like, "Nah, dude, I like Butler." And then Simmons just went crazy, but then Butler ended up doing well too, so it was fine.
Butler did
But
really well.
for like an hour, I was like, "Oh man." I feel pretty bad about that one. All right, below them, I mean, Edwards is here, who we talked about shooting guard, and then you have Michael Porter Jr. I don't know what to do with this guy, man. Like, I really don't. I just don't understand. You know, he only played 24 minutes last night. 15 DK points. You know, Millsap's out again. What do you do with MPJ? Because this is the matchup that he can go off in, and like naturally he's going to be way less owned than he was yesterday.
Yeah, I think he's a fine tournament play if you want to, I don't know, keep taking your shot. Like at some point in time, he's going to go off, but until then, you're just going to keep eating 15 fantasy point games. I've been using Michael Porter Jr. like a ridiculous amount of FanDuel in my lineups, and
Yeah, I think everybody has.
works.
They just don't price.
Work.
It's like MPJ. They is like universally 5,500 on FanDuel. Jordan Clarkson is like universally like 4,800 on FanDuel. I don't know. There's like certain guys they just refuse to price no matter what.
It's terrible, honestly.
It is. I actually like. I don't even like. It's hard to play cash on FanDuel, honestly, at the moment. Like with the way their pricing is, like there's so many of just the same team in every, and it's not even people like sharing their team. It's just like so obvious.
It's so obvious where you're going.
So then, like when I'm making my team though, like you know what that team's gonna be, and it's like I don't want to play it. So it's I either beat that team or I lose. It's I don't know. It's not fun to play cash on FanDuel for basketball personally. Sadiq Bey, we need to talk about. He's 5,500, and then we also have Jayshawn Tate. So what did they say? Gordon is questionable or a game time decision, and then PJ Tucker's doubtful. So I think Jayshawn Tate 5,500 is in play for tournaments. He played 40 minutes in that last game, put up 36 DK points. He gets some time at center. You would think that Houston would want to play Boogie against Embiid, but yeah, dude, it really
they don't care. It doesn't.
Yeah, no, they don't care. It hurts me, man. Boogie, he's just done, dude. Like he just kind of stands around and like throws up some threes. He doesn't really do anything anymore. I don't know. It hurts me, man, because he used to be so good and so fun to watch. And
well, he was crazy back in his.
It's like the injuries took their effect. So I think Tate is definitely a good play at 5,500. Then Sadiq Bey, we got to talk about him, man. Dude's played so well that the Pistons were like, we're just gonna give away Blake Griffin to somebody so we can play this guy. I wanted the Cavs to draft him. Of course they didn't. I wanted Tyrese Halliburton and Sadiq Bey. That was the two guys. I was like, the Cavs need to pick one of these two players. Did they take either of them? No, they took Isaac Okoro, dude. That's who I got to root for.
Better believe it.
Better
believe it.
I don't think Bey will be owned at 5,500, but I still think he's a good play in tournaments.
Yeah, I like Bay. I think if I'm picking between him and Tate, I think I actually pick Bay because,
Yeah,
dude, I
I
just
think
don't
Bay
really
has higher
use guys
upside.
against Philly.
I think Bay has higher upside.
I would agree, especially in the matchup.
Yeah.
Uh, I do. I actually really liked Bay coming out of college. I think that he's really good, and now that he's gonna get basically all the minutes he can handle. Like I would be shocked if he plays less than more or less 35 nightly now, assuming he stays out of foul trouble, which he just generally doesn't foul. So you kind of get a bad, you'll get a bad night if he's in foul trouble. But if he's getting 35 plus basically every night, it's not, 55 is a lot for him, but that's basically going to be his floor if he's getting the minutes at this point.
Yeah, like I think normally 55 would be a lot for him, but with Griffin out, like he's should be getting like all the minutes that he can handle. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
like I think he's gonna probably end up even a little bit higher price than 55. So it's still a value, I feel. And then Nawaba, dude, Chalk Nawaba just dropped a 40 bomb on Monday. Insane. I
Yeah, that
felt
was
bad.
awesome.
I felt bad for anyone that did not use him. Because like what like you don't really expect that from him, right? You're like, oh, he's like a little free square. Maybe he can grind me,
Get 20,
20
25
points.
points.
He got 40. If Gordon's out, I'm assuming he'll be pretty high owned again. I would guess at 4,300.
Yep, I completely agree. And I think that he will be a very solid option. Again, though, I do think that he's more or less fadeable because I just don't like playing guys against Philly. They have a really good defense. Adding that Houston has a pretty good defense as well. This could be a low scoring game tonight. So I don't know if they're going to be chalky. I feel like you can definitely use them in cash, but tournaments just step away.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you have any other like punts, or we can move on? I think I can.
3K, Aaron Naismith's probably going to get around 20 to 25 minutes. So I don't hate it, but also not like my favorite. I'm not rushing to get him in my lineup, but I do think he's a viable punt.
Yeah. Power forward, Sabonis, Randall, Tatum, who's going to be really high owned at the top. Randall, man, my boy, he came through for us the other night. I was so happy. I was so happy when I saw he was low owned, and then he just, he started out that first quarter. He was like 17 points and 2 boards, 2 dimes. And I was like, this is gonna be a good night. Tougher matchup, but like still, it's not a bad matchup. It's just not as good as the matchup against the Hawks was. So I think he's in play. But if you have the money, Sabonis, I think is a really good play today.
Yeah, I prefer Sabonis to Randall, but I'm fine with either. I think my favorite power forward would be Tatum at 87. So
For sure.
you don't even need to get up to the 9Ks for him. Also, if you have a little bit less than that, Zion has finally put it together and been playing extremely well. So I do think in the low eights, Zion's a really solid option.
Yeah, there's some good top options at power forward, and I don't think any of them will be owned except for Tatum. So like some good pivots in tournaments. And I mean you could play Tatum with them, right? It's not like you have to fade Tatum.
Yeah, well, especially because he's small forward now too.
Yeah. So there's some good plays there. I don't love anyone like in this mid tier. Like there's some guys we already talked about, MPJ. I guess Covington I think is interesting just because with Giles out and some of the injuries for the Blazers, he's been playing some center. So I think he's interesting. But I think I like Sadiq Bey, who you can use at power forward better than Covington.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think a couple guys that I'm relatively okay with. Tobias Harris at 76, but I'm not rushing to get him in my lineups. Kelly Oubre at 64, I feel like is relatively fine. And that's really out of everyone out of anyone that we haven't talked about yet.
You like Kelly
Olynyk
today? Yeah,
no, I do like.
I knew it.
Yeah, no, Kelly Olynyk solid. Golden State gives up a lot of rebounds to the power forward, so Olynyk does come with double upside. The problem is, are the Heat just going to pull him? And I don't know the answer to that. He played 31 minutes in 3 straight, and then he played like 14 or 15 minutes in his last game. So I don't really know what was up with that. I feel like he's going to get back to minutes in the more or less high 20s, maybe mid 20s, which should be enough time, honestly, for a guy that can contribute in 5 categories on any night to hit value, especially under 5K. But I do think that Olynyk is a solid tournament option. And We got to go back to Zeke there, right?
Yeah, two really good cheap plays today. Isaiah Roby is going to be really chalk. I think you probably just plug him in cash with Horford out. 4K. It's a pretty easy play on DraftKings. And then our boy Zeke, man, cashed in spite of him last night. Only had 4.5 DK points, but he played 26 minutes, which you pointed out. Millsap is out again. And I think that
Will Barton's out too.
yeah,
So.
Will Barton's out. So I think they're probably going to start JaMychal Green again. JaMychal Green is probably going to play better than he did last night. He played pretty bad last night. Played 29 minutes. So I think he might play a little bit better. But like if you look at JaMychal Green, he was a point per minute for the season. But if you put him next to Jokic, it dropped down to like 0.75 points per minute. So, predictably, he wasn't going to do as much playing next to Jokic, which is why I didn't really play him. I just didn't think you needed him at that high ownership. But I think Zeke's going to get his minutes anyways. He's going to back up Green. I think 20 minutes is pretty much a lock, and Malone really seems to like him. So I think you have 20 minutes with upside for more. I think he's going to do more than he did last night. Obviously, the matchup's way better. But you and I were talking. He kind of was on LeBron a lot when he was in. So he was kind of spending all of his energy defending LeBron. He wasn't really trying to do other stuff. And the Wizards just don't really have that threat for him. So I think he's completely fine. And I don't know. I might play him again, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually think that is a really good play just because people are going to look at what he did last night. But he's actually been solid per minute, more or less. When he's actually gotten time this year, which hasn't been often, but he scored basically 24 fantasy points in 24 minutes against the Lakers, and then 17 and 19 minutes against Cleveland. It was just last night? No, so he did really well against the Lakers. He struggled against Boston last night.
Yeah.
So still, Washington doesn't have the forwards that he's going to need to waste his energy.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at Popcorn Machine right now. I really think 20 minutes is like a lock, dude.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And if he gets 20 minutes, he's cheap enough that he can easily hit value.
For sure. And you would think this is the type of matchup he would be good in, right? Fast paced,
Yep, that's what I think. Anyway, yeah. Not that he's overly athletic, but he does have a good motor, and this is exactly what he needs, in my opinion. Someone said Davis Bertans GPP okay. I think he's fine.
Dude, I will never quit Davis Bertans.
I don't think he's a lead or anything, but it's a good matchup, and he's coming off a big game, so I do like him. Someone else said they would prefer TJ McConnell over Malcolm Brogdon, who's fluky. I like McConnell. I think McConnell's fine, but if Doug McDermott's back, McConnell goes back to the bench, and he's now priced up pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, how is Brogdon fluky? He's average over 40 DraftKings points a game for the whole season. I don't think that's fluky. He kind of got in a groove where he wasn't playing super well. If you look at, he was really good at the beginning of the season. Recently, he had a stretch. I'll pull up his game log. Let's see. 25 DK points, 18, 32, 32, 37. I mean, he had a couple bad games, 24 and 18, and they were both in 29 and 27 minutes. So I don't know. I don't think he's fluky, and he's been super aggressive the last 2 games. And I think that if he comes out and he plays aggressive against Minnesota, I mean, should do similar to what he did against Chicago. And he could have had a way bigger game against Chicago, dude. Sabonis was missing easy layups from him, just crazy stuff, dude.
He also shot 10 of 25.
Yeah, he could have dropped a 70. He could have dropped a 70 against Chicago. I'm not lying.
Yeah. No, I really like Brogdon. For what it's worth, if McConnell's out, not McConnell, McDermott's out, I'm also fine with TJ.
Yeah,
McConnell.
if McDermott's out, you can play Brogdon and McConnell together. I don't care. I think it's fine. But you need that McDermott news though to play McConnell. All right, we'll finish up at center. We won't bury the lead here. Jokic, I think, is going to be really chalky. I think you're going to play him in cash. Probably play him in tournaments too. I know he's 11K It's a back-to-back, but the matchup is just too good for what he's been doing. Like you feel pretty safe with him, right?
Yeah, I think he's the best
Yeah.
spend up on the entire slate.
So outside of him, I think Karl-Anthony Towns is interesting in tournaments. You could play him together with Jokic on DraftKings for like a low-owned combo. I think Capella could be interesting. I mean, a lot of these guys are interesting. It's just like I'm playing Jokic, and I'm probably playing Robert Williams, who we'll talk about in a second, who's really cheap. So, I don't play enough teams to get to some of these guys, but there are some decent plays here.
Yeah, I agree. Those are the two that are probably just going to make their way in my lineup because they're so obvious. I do think Embiid is a solid pivot off of Jokic, though. And if you're looking for a pivot off of Robert Williams, I think Mo Wagner is a really good option as well. So there's definitely pivots. Like there's other options as Rudy Gobert 73, Valanciunas, who I slightly prefer over Gobert, but fine with either one of them, also 73. Bam Adebayo is 86. All three of them should have good games. You have Nerlens Noel at 47. So there's a lot of really good options. It's just that Joker and Robert Williams are like so clearly ahead of everyone that it's going to be tough to get to any of them.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson at 4,100 I think is kind of interesting with Tice out again, but I mean, Robert Williams, I think he could see a couple extra minutes just because it's a back-to-back. So I think he could see a couple extra minutes tonight, and I think that they're probably going to want to use him against Capella. I think he ran kind of pure last night, right? He had 5 steals. I'm not expecting him to get 5 steals again, but at the same time, steals and blocks, that's what Robert Williams does. That's kind of what you're hoping for him to do. So I don't think he's going to get 5 again, but I also don't think it's super fluky for him.
To be fair, though, if you take away all 5 of his steals, he still easily exceeded value. Like that's just how cheap he is.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely. I guess I think Mo Wagner is interesting too. It's a tough matchup against Jokic, but if he starts again, he's only 3,800. I think you could talk me into that for tournaments. I feel.
Yeah, definitely. He comes with plenty of upside. He's actually a pretty solid.
Yeah,
player.
I don't think he's bad, man.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Do you have anyone else here? I think that about does it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could take a shot on like Clint Capella, but
yep,
that's more or less who I'm looking at overall.
I agree. All right. If you guys have any last minute questions, you can drop those in. Bales, give me a bold call for Wednesday night's NBA games.
I will go with I'm assuming it'll be the first of the season. I'm guessing it could be the first of his career. DeLone Wright triple-double.
DeLone Wright triple-double. I like it.
We're all in.
So James, I don't know if you noticed this. James bet $100 on Malcolm Brogdon triple-double the other night. He was trying to get like the good juices flowing because we were both playing him.
Oh,
so we gotta get the good juices flowing for DeLone Wright triple-double tonight. I like that. I'll go with SGA scores 35 real points tonight.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any other questions, we'll be in Discord. Other than that,